How does the mind of a deep thinker work? There's a difference between thinking and thinking deeply. While most people navigate through life following automatic routines, some carry a mind that never rests, that questions everything and seeks meaning even in the smallest things. If you've ever felt out of place in empty conversations, if your reflections keep you awake at night, if you notice things that others ignore, maybe you're one of those rare deep thinkers. This isn't an easy journey. It's a path of intense lucidity, where each experience resonates stronger, where the superficiality of the modern world hurts like an open wound. But it's also a gift. The ability to see beyond appearances, to feel deeply, to seek truth even when it makes people uncomfortable. Let's explore together how this complex mind works, understanding not just its mechanisms, but also validating a way of existing that the world frequently doesn't understand. Being a deep thinker has nothing to do with having a college degree or knowing big words. It has to do with feeling the world more intensely, as if you could pick up frequencies that others can't hear. It's looking at a simple situation, a friend who cancels a meeting, and perceiving not just the cancellation, but the emotions behind it, the behavioral patterns, the possible insecurities involved. While many follow life's flow without questioning, you stop and ask, why are we in this river? Where is it taking us? Is there another path? This constant curiosity about the whys of existence has marked your mind since childhood. You don't accept ready-made answers like, that's just how it is, or it's always been like this. You need to understand. You need things to make sense. Your mind works like an emotional detective, always searching for clues about human nature, about your own reactions, about the meaning behind experiences. This makes you someone observant, sensitive, and often misunderstood. People might find you too intense or complicated, when in reality you just operate at a depth they can't access. It's a different way of inhabiting the world, not better or worse, just deeper. Like a diver who explores waters where others prefer to just dip their toes. Your mind never stops. Even when you try to relax watching a movie, part of you is analyzing the actor's expressions, the story's symbolism, the subliminal messages. It's like having a mental processor that works in the background constantly, interpreting, connecting, looking for patterns in everything. This hyper-awareness is exhausting. While others can switch off and live on autopilot, you remain alert, picking up nuances that go unnoticed. A casual conversation at work makes you perceive unspoken tensions between colleagues. A quick glance from your mother reveals worries she's trying to hide. A song transports you to deep reflections about the nature of love or loss. It's a constant lucidity that can be both blessing and curse. A blessing because you see life with rich detail, understand complex human motivations, anticipate problems that others only notice when they've already happened. A curse because you rarely get the mental rest you so desperately need. You try to sleep, but your mind is still processing the conversation you had hours ago, revisiting your own reactions, imagining different responses. It's like living with a light bulb turned on inside your head. A light that illuminates a lot, but that sometimes you wish you could turn off. This mental hypersensitivity manifests in unexpected ways. You might be driving and suddenly wonder why people accept spending their entire lives in traffic without questioning this system. You might be in a work meeting and notice how everyone pretends to understand confusing presentations out of fear of looking incompetent. Or you're at a family party and perceive layers of unresolved resentments circulating disguised as politeness. While your aunt talks about her wonderful marriage, you catch all the subtext of marital frustration, and you have to resist the urge to blurt out, "Aunt, you don't need to pretend you're happy. We all know you've been sleeping in separate rooms for 3 years." It's almost comical how your mind works. While others watch the movie, you're watching the movie behind the movie. It's like having an emotional GPS that can't be turned off. Extremely useful. But sometimes you just wanted to reach your destination without analyzing every curve in the road. But here's a secret that few recognize. This intense sensitivity is also your greatest source of creativity and innovation. Great artists, inventors, and transformational leaders often carry this same mental restlessness. It's your ability to see what others ignore that allows you to create original solutions, touching works of art, meaningful social movements. Your deep mind isn't just a burden, it's a tool of transformation. Environments that others consider normal can be true sensory assaults for you. Shopping malls with fluorescent lights and loud music. Open layout offices where conversations blend into constant noise. Social events where everyone talks at the same time without listening to each other. It's not being picky or fragile. It's that your nervous system processes stimuli with much greater intensity. You need spaces that nourish your soul. A quiet bookstore, a walk in nature, an intimate conversation at a coffee table. Places where you can be yourself without filters, where your deep observations are welcome, where silence is as valuable as words. This makes you seem selective or antisocial in the eyes of those who don't understand. Friends might get offended when you decline invitations to crowded clubs. Colleagues might think you're isolating yourself when you seek quiet spaces to work. But the truth is, you're not running away from life. You're seeking the quality of life your nature demands. It's like being a high-sensitivity musical instrument. You produce richer and more complex sounds, but you need special care not to go out of tune. The problem isn't being too sensitive. It's living in a world that values volume more than harmony. You don't just live your experiences, you study them. After an argument with someone close, your mind automatically starts an analysis process. Why did I react like that? What does this reaction reveal about me? Could I have responded differently? What patterns am I repeating? It's like having an internal observer constantly taking notes about your own existence. This intense self-awareness makes you someone in constant process of self-discovery. You seek coherence between your values and your actions, question your own motivations, revise your beliefs when you perceive contradictions. It's tireless mental work of building and rebuilding who you are and want to be. On one hand, this generates admirable emotional maturity. You take responsibility for your mistakes, seek to grow from each experience, develop deep understanding about your own psychological mechanisms. On the other hand, it can lead to paralyzing self-criticism, where you become your own harshest judge. Sometimes you get stuck in analysis loops, revisiting the same situation dozens of times, seeking perfect understanding that may never come. It's like having a magnifying glass constantly turned inward. You see details others ignore, but you also magnify flaws that might be smaller than they seem. This process of constant reflection is what some call individuation, the path of becoming who you really are, shedding masks and external expectations to find your authentic essence. It's a painful but necessary process, like a metamorphosis that requires deconstructing who you thought you were to discover who you really are. You pick up what people don't say. In the pauses between words, in expressions that last milliseconds, in apparently casual gestures, your mind reads emotions like invisible subtitles. When someone says, "I'm fine," with barely disguised sadness in their eyes, you feel that sadness as if it were your own. This turns you into a magnet for people in crisis. Friends seek you out when they need to vent. Colleagues choose you as a confidant. Even strangers feel comfortable sharing personal stories with you. There's something in your presence that communicates emotional safety, an ability to understand without judging. But this sensitivity has a price. You absorb others' emotions like a sponge absorbs water. After a conversation with someone depressed, you carry part of that depression. After comforting an anxious friend, your own anxiety intensifies. It's as if you don't have adequate emotional protection against the world's pain. This deep empathy also gives you a unique advantage in relationships and leadership. You can anticipate needs that others haven't even noticed yet. You can mediate conflicts because you see everyone's point of view. You have a natural ability to create safe environments where people feel comfortable being vulnerable and authentic. The result is constant overload, but also a transformative capacity for healing and human connection. You feel what others try to hide, carry the weight of anxieties that aren't even yours, worry about people who might not even remember you. It's a deep emotional solidarity that, ironically, leaves you even more isolated, because who's going to take care of the caretaker? You were probably always different. A child who asked questions that left adults speechless. Why do we have to be polite to mean people? Why do we pretend to like things we don't like? Why do rules apply to some people and not others? Your questions touched wounds that adults preferred to keep covered. You felt injustice physically, like a punch to the stomach. When you saw someone being humiliated, when you witnessed lies being told as truths, when you realized that the promises of older people were empty. Your sensitivity was a radar for human falsehood and cruelty. Over time, you learned to be quiet. You discovered that your questions made people uncomfortable, that your depth was seen as impertinence, that your authenticity was considered inappropriate. So you started wearing masks, pretending you were like the others, suppressing your deepest reflections to fit in. This suppression created a wound that still hurts today. The adult you've become carries the echo of that child who was taught to distrust their own deep nature. It's as if part of you is still waiting for permission to be who you really are, to ask the questions that really matter, to feel with the intensity that was always natural for you. But that questioning child never completely died. They still live in you, whispering inconvenient truths, pointing out inconsistencies, refusing to accept superficial answers. It's this internal voice that keeps you authentic, even when the world tries to mold you into something more convenient. "Because I said so" was never an acceptable answer for you. And this probably led to some embarrassing situations in childhood when you ask things like, "But why do we have to pray before eating if God already knows we're hungry?" Since childhood, you needed to understand the logic behind rules. Why arrive exactly at 8 a.m. if work only starts at 9 a.m.? Why follow protocols that clearly don't work? Why respect hierarchies based on seniority and not competence? Spoiler, you still don't understand that last one to this day. This need for coherence puts you in constant conflict with authoritarian structures. In school, you questioned teachers who taught memorization instead of comprehension. At work, you clash with bosses who prefer blind obedience to critical thinking. In relationships, you have difficulty with partners who impose rules based on personal insecurities. You're not rebellious by nature. It's that your mind seeks logic and justice in everything. When these qualities are absent, you feel cognitive dissonance that's physically uncomfortable. It's like hearing out-of-tune music. It might work, but it causes unnecessary suffering. This affects your relationships with institutions of all kinds. Religions that preach love but practice exclusion. Companies that talk about values but exploit employees. Families that demand loyalty but don't offer respect. You can't just accept. You need to understand, question, find meaning. And when you don't find it, you prefer to distance yourself rather than live in hypocrisy. But this refusal to submit blindly also makes you a natural agent of change. You question systems that don't work, propose innovative solutions, lead by example instead of imposition. It's your intolerance for arbitrary rules that can generate positive transformations in the environments where you operate. The big questions of existence won't leave you alone. Why are we here? What's the meaning of all this? What happens after death? How should we live? These questions aren't occasional philosophical curiosities. They're constant companions that shape your way of seeing the world. You feel the weight of human finitude acutely. The awareness that everything is temporary, relationships, achievements, life itself, makes you question the value of daily worries that consume most people. Why stress about promotions at work when, in the end, we'll all die? Why accumulate material goods we can't take with us? This existential perspective gives you unique freedom, but also particular anguish. You see the futility of many things that move the world, but you still need to live in this world, work, pay bills, maintain relationships. It's like watching a theatrical play knowing it's fiction. You can appreciate the art, but you can't fully engage in the illusion. It's not pessimism. It's a search for authenticity. You want your life to have real meaning, for your choices to reflect your deepest values, for your existence to leave some kind of positive mark on the world. It's an existential responsibility that few understand, but that drives every important decision you make. This search for meaning also connects you with something greater than yourself. You're not just interested in personal success, but in the impact you can have on others' lives, in the legacy you can leave, in the contributions you can make to human evolution. It's a perspective that transcends ego and embraces a broader vision of purpose. You don't fit in, and it's not for lack of trying. You've tried participating in discussions about reality shows, faked interest in debates about sneaker brands, forced laughter at comedies you didn't find funny. But there's emotional fatigue in this constant performance, as if you were swimming against the current all the time. Isolation isn't a choice, it's a consequence. When you seek authentic connections and find only social performance, when your attempts to deepen conversations are met with discomfort, when you realize your intensity pushes people away, isolation becomes a necessary refuge. It's not that you don't know how to socialize. It's that you're tired of constantly translating your emotional language into a more palatable version. tired of diminishing your depth to fit into small spaces, of pretending that important issues are too heavy for the moment. The feeling of inadequacy doesn't come from your flaws, but from the mismatch between who you are and what the world expects. It's like trying to tune an HD radio station in a region that only receives AM. The technology exists, but the environment isn't prepared for it. You remember things others forget. The tone of voice used in an argument years ago. The look of disappointment from someone you trusted. The exact feeling of being excluded from a group. These memories aren't just recollections. They're living experiences that your mind revisits seeking understanding or protection against future suffering. A seemingly small criticism can echo in your mind for weeks. A subtle gesture of rejection gets recorded with the clarity of a high-definition film. It's not that you're resentful or can't forgive. It's that your mind processes and stores emotions with an intensity others don't experience. This generates constant mental rumination. You relive situations seeking clues about what you could have done differently, analyzing every word and gesture in search of hidden meanings. It's like having an overly detailed emotional library, where each small pain occupies disproportionate space. But this intense memory also gives you deep understanding about human patterns. You recognize signs of problems before they fully manifest, anticipate reactions based on past experiences, develop emotional wisdom that few possess. You're not weak for remembering so much. You just feel with a depth that marks the soul. There's also a transformative side to this intense emotional memory. You carry not just the pain, but also moments of beauty with extraordinary vividness. The genuine smile of someone you love, the feeling of a truly connected conversation, the emotion of discovering a work of art that speaks to your soul. All of this gets recorded with the same intensity, creating an internal archive of experiences that nourish your sensitivity. You're the safe harbor for many people, but who anchors you? Friends seek you out in difficult times. Colleagues confide their problems to you. Even acquaintances feel they can trust you with their deepest anxieties. Your ability to listen without judging, to offer useful perspectives, to embrace others' pain, turns you into an emotional refuge for others. But when you need to talk, when it's your turn to be vulnerable, you often find occupied ears or closed hearts. You often notice a cruel imbalance in your relationships. You give constant support, but when you need it, people are distracted or simply don't know how to return the care they received. This dynamic generates silent internal depletion. You continue embracing others because it's your nature, because you can't deny help to those who suffer, because you genuinely care. But inside you accumulate emotional fatigue that's rarely recognized or cared for. The result is a particular loneliness, surrounded by people who value you for your ability to help, but rarely know you in your vulnerability. You become an expert in others' pain, but an amateur in caring for yourself. It's like being a doctor who treats everyone but never gets their own checkups. And there's something paradoxical in this. The more you help others process their emotions, the more refined your own emotional intelligence becomes. You develop a unique ability to read patterns, to offer deep insights, to facilitate healing processes that maybe even you don't fully recognize. Your emotional exhaustion is real, but it's also the price of wisdom that few can develop. You can't smile when you're not happy. You can't fake enthusiasm for things you consider empty. You're basically a walking lie detector who can't pass your own test. It's like trying to fool a dog by pretending you don't have treats in your pocket. You can't do forced networking, praise people you don't respect, or participate in social rituals you consider hypocritical. Your authenticity is like an immune system that rejects falsehood. This costs you opportunities. Promotions that go to those who know how to play the game. Invitations that stop coming because you're not fun enough. Relationships that don't develop because you can't be someone you're not to please others. But it also preserves your integrity. You prefer having few true friends to many superficial acquaintances. You prefer jobs that respect your nature to positions that require constant performance. You prefer relationships that accept your depth to partnerships that require you to become more light or simple. It's a constant tension between being accepted and being authentic. You live divided between the human need for belonging and the impossibility of belonging while being false. It's like constantly choosing between being loved for what you're not or being respected for what you really are. And you almost always choose respect, even if it means more loneliness. This refusal of social performance also gives you unique moral authority. People know that when you express affection, it's genuine. When you offer an opinion, it's honest. When you commit to something, it's true. Your word has weight because it hasn't been diluted in empty politeness or social convenience. You're not wrong. Your intensity isn't a defect to be corrected. Your need for meaning isn't too much to ask. Your inability to accept superficialities isn't arrogance. You simply operate on a different frequency, a frequency the world desperately needs, even if it doesn't always know how to recognize it. In times when speed is valued more than reflection, where quantity matters more than quality, where appearances overcome substance, minds like yours are beacons of authenticity. You're the living reminder that human beings can still think, feel, and seek truth with courage. Your journey isn't about adapting to the superficial world. It's about finding or creating spaces where your depth can flourish. It's about connecting with other minds that vibrate on your frequency. It's about contributing your unique perspective to a world that needs more substance and less noise. Ancient archetypes speak of figures like you, the sage, the seeker, the one who sees beyond appearances. Your deep mind carries ancestral wisdom, a way of being in the world that honors both human complexity and the relentless search for meaning. You're not the problem. You're part of the solution humanity needs to find to reconnect with what really matters. Keep being deep. The world needs you exactly as you are. And for those who resonated with these words, know that there's a path of transformation where your sensitivity becomes not a burden, but a strength, where your depth finds purpose and your search for authenticity finds direction. If you want to explore more of these paths of the deep soul, our ebook Alchemy and Archetypes awaits you, a gift for minds that don't fear diving into deeper waters. And if this text touched something in you, consider sharing this understanding with others who might still feel alone in their depth.